You believe that the conflict between Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac arose from Steve Harvey receiving more network support at the time, while Bernie Mac received less. And then Bernie started to receive it. In the GQ article, Bernie claimed that when he was cast in Ocean's 11, Steve had approached the producers, saying he would make a better fit, and that he had tried to land the role. Bernie claimed that this was something that you just don't do because, as he put it, I felt like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was on his own path, and Steve Soa, nothing like that ever happens or doesn't happen for a reason. They were only supposed to be a pair of professionals pursuing joint success, but news that has just hit the media about Harvey alleges that he only cared about himself from the beginning, even though the world was unaware of everything that was happening with the guys behind closed doors. Steve Harvey's story seems to show us another angle to it, because according to reports, Harvey was hell-bent on kicking Bernie Mac out of his way. I know I don't have to tell you how explosive this is, so do yourself a favor and stay tuned. Is it true that Stephen and Bernie butted heads? Because they were the kind of guys who were both alpha males. Other band members have now come out to clarify the story about Mac and Harvey's story. If you were old enough in the early 2000s, there is a strong possibility that you are familiar with the original Kings of Comedy show. If you weren't around at the time, whatever you believe to be the full tale of Steve Harvey is probably only half the truth. When Steve Harvey and 3 other comedians embarked on the original Kings of Comedy tour in the 2000s, they established their status as members of the Comedy Hall of Fame. Not only did the show break box office records at the time, but it also served as the model for modern comedy shows. Was that the most successful comedy tour? The other 3 performers at that time were DL Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, and Bernie Mac. Each of them had a distinctive style and used material that focused on black and white contrasts, as well as African American life in America. Steve was attractive, and we had the Steve Harvey Show, a popular national TV program. When DL became popular and had a TV show, Bernie Mac was the top comedian. At the time, though, Harvey was said to be the most charismatic performer as well as the most assertive with the audience, choosing targets in the front row for compliments on their appearance, attire, and future prospects. On the other hand, Bernie Mac's style could be described as being the most hard-edged, and some of his material. The first time we did it, it was just me, Bernie, and I, into the wounds of real life rather than comedy. Steve Harvey may have been envious of Bernie Mac's approach, and that minor hiccup turned into a feud that lasted for years. At least that's what one of the band members appears to have just revealed to the public, and the internet is buzzing about it. Bernie and Steve write, and Steve closed, but it seems like Steve Harvey might have been jealous of Bernie Mac's approach. For years, rumors have been circulating that during the time of the original Kings of Comedy tour, there was some tension between Steve Harvey and the late Bernie Mac. Now those rumors are being addressed by other members like Cedric the Entertainer Cedric, who was a part of the tour along with DL Hughley, said that Bernie felt like he didn't want to do it anymore because he was on his own path. And Steve, nothing like that ever happens on Shannon Sharpe's podcast club. Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac acknowledged that the 2 comedians did not get along. Yeah, I mean, they were the kind of guys that they were both alpha males, like they just saw it different, you know what I'm saying, Harvey said. Mr. Shea Cedric added that because of the feud it had prevented them from doing another tour. I think, of course, that was, definitely a contributing circumstance. But I also think that it had a lot to do with the promoter on the thing, because he got a bigger head than all of us the dude that put us all together started to really think was about him. So it started to be that it was a lot of those kinds of elements, is that one of the reasons why you didn't do you did it, you did. The first you did the first part, the second part, I think, of course, that was, definitely a contributing circumstance. In 2003, Mac had an interview with GQ magazine where he accused Harvey of being jealous of him and trying to sabotage him for certain movie roles. Steve would go on to address Mac's claims in a 2010 interview and revealed that he was hurt by Mac's words. Well, fans didn't think Steve was coming clean, and many of them didn't hide how they felt. One person wrote, "I never liked Steve Harvey." People always addressed how much of a raccoon he's always been, which is a fact, but he also had a superiority complex over other black comedians that he worked with, including Bernie and Cedric. Too quiet as it's kept. Another individual who also has the same thoughts about Steve's true personality said, "Y'all ever heard of the bull, Steve Downell? All you know, he slimed. The real reason they killed Bernie is on the net. Well, a reason other than the official story. Gotta dig deep to find it. Though we'll never truly know, though. Long live Bernie." Though others seem to believe Steve Harvey has always been a terrible person from the beginning, even to the people on his show. One of these people wrote, "While everyone had an opinion of Steve, when his feud with Mac went mainstream, the presenter actually had a different explanation for what had happened between them, because you know, like he always be together if it's on TV." I really don't think Steve is even that nice of a guy. He gives terrible advice. He's snippy with contestants and audience members, as in early episodes, and he has an inflated sense of self. Harvey expressed his emotions on the GQ story and revealed that he was upset about it. Harvey also acknowledged that he spoke with Mac about the interview, but Mac claimed he never said it. So I had to take Harvey at his word for it after Max passed away. I was initially upset because it was simply untrue, as I and Bernie had spent a lot of enjoyable times together. Harvey admitted that Rhonda McCullough, his widow, had assisted him in overcoming the conflict. Nobody knows what was really behind the beef, but Harvey's admission of having a cleansing moment might suggest that something was there indeed. Whatever it was, we'll probably never know from the looks of things. But Steve has demonstrated that he does regret how the relationship between him and Mac went south, and he's even proven it on air a while back. Bernie Mac, who died in 2008 at the age of 50, was honored in episodes of Steve Harvey's daytime talk program. Due to respiratory issues for the tribute special, Harvey announced that Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel had officially proclaimed November 14 as Bernie Mac Day, and he was joined by DL Hughley and Cedric the Entertainer. Due to the fact that Bernie was a lifelong Chicagoan, the city of Chicago sent this to him. Harvey informed Bernie of this. In celebration of Bernie's amazing life and legacy, a proclamation was issued. A clearly moved Harvey gave some